It's good to have a plan in life. I mean, flying by the seat of your pants can be super fun until you hit those uncharted waters. Take Pee Wee Herman, for example, back in the late 80s. I mean, he was a kid show host, a funny comedian. Not many people had seen somebody like a Pee Wee Herman. He appealed to adults and kids back there in those days. Until he hit uncharted waters, do you know what happened to Pee Wee Herman? Well, he was caught in a movie theater debating which Manscaped package he needed to order, if you know what I mean. So, hopefully this mock draft today helps you out a little bit, helps you get planned for those decisions, because the last thing you want is to be sitting there at your fantasy draft and get caught with your fantasy pecker in your hand and your season over. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Happy Monday to you. And we're doing another mock draft today, except this one, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We pay attention to those comments that you leave down below, and we've had quite a few people asking for a 10-team mock draft in a later spot. However, this mock draft is going to appeal to everybody because I've added 3 flex spots to it. So now we're going to get to go a little bit deeper. However, we still get that 10-team draft that a lot of people are looking for. So whether you're in 10-team or 12-team, we got you covered. We're talking a ton of players here, and we're not going to take any more time. Let's go over to the draft room, get it all set up, and see what kind of team we can come out here with the 10 spot. All right, here we go. Got Fantasy Pros queued up. Got the Draft Wizard ready to go. All set up for our 2020 season half PPR snake-style draft. There's only 10 teams. We talked about that, and we're coming from the 10 spot. Last pick, first round. Have it set up for 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and here's our specialty, 3 flex spots. That's going to get us a little bit deeper to talk about a few more names for all you guys out there in those 12-team leagues. So let's go ahead and get it queued up and started. Now it's going to automatically select the first 9 picks for the computer here. We'll go through them here in just a second. We'll get it all prettied up for you guys so you can see what's going on. We'll have it queued up to our roster, the cheat sheets. We're going to hide these tiers and drafted players. One thing that I can tell you guys, especially about this platform, don't just go with the name on the top of the list every time. It's not the most beneficial way to draft. And you'll even see this probably at the end of the draft. It'll spit out a score based off of others' rankings and ratings. Take those with a grain of salt, right? Because you have your own players. You've done your research. You've watched the channels. You know who you like and who you don't like. Just because somebody else doesn't agree with you doesn't mean you still can't be right. So make sure you keep that in mind. Don't always go with the name on the top of the list. If you do that in this, you're going to get an amazing score because you're doing what they tell you to do. But this is where your own research comes into play. So here's a little bit difference in a 10-team. Now, if you've watched this channel for a long time, you know I love running backs, a lot of them early. Reason being, I play in a lot of 12-team leagues, and really in 12-team leagues, the running back position goes super fast, right? They don't last very long. In a 10-team league, you may get an extra round or so of running backs because what? There's less teams, right? Less picks each round. So if a stud wide receiver will fall to me at some point here in the beginning half of this draft, I'm more likely to take him in a 10-team league than I am a 12-team league. And case in point, we're starting off with it right here, right? Tyreek Hill and Julio Jones both available here at the 10th pick in the first round. Not something you may see in a 12-team league. And really, like I said, we're not going to avoid running backs there, but we still have Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs. We love Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs this year. It would be great to have both of them. And you could, right here, going back-to-back picks. But we're going to see how much deeper we can go with the running back position. So we're going to go wide receiver early. Like I said, not something I normally do, but I'm not going to pass up on Tyreek Hill because, A, I'm still going to be able to get Chubb or Jacobs, whichever one that I want, because I'll be on the clock next. And plus, like I said, we have that extra round of available running backs. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Is there a reason why I'm not going Julio Jones? Not really. I think both of these guys have the potential to have a huge year. Nothing negative to say about either one of them. I think Tyreek Hill may be a little bit more explosive, maybe a little bit more consistent. A lot of people hate about Julio, how he'll go out and score 30 one week and like 4 the next. Hopefully Tyreek Hill is a little bit safer. Ceiling may be slightly lower. Not by much though. They're both amazing talents. So now we're back on the clock again. and we get our pick of which running back do we want. Now, this is where you could, if you were ballsy enough to do it, you could go with Julio Jones again. And you could have Julio and Tyreek Hill and then just take a bunch of risks at running back. And you could. I mean, you could end up with a running back trio of Gurley, David Johnson, James Conner. Now, last year, that sounds amazing. This year, a whole lot of risk. I don't mind taking some risks, but I don't want all of my guys to be a risk. I have to have one solid in there. My one solid, it's going to be Nick Chubb. And a lot of people are terrified of Kareem Hunt and how he's going to eat into Chubb's value. I get it. Chubb may not have that super high ceiling because he's not going to see a whole lot of receptions. However, both of these guys can coexist. And in a Kevin Stefanski offense that's going to feature the running game, especially with all the 2 tight end sets, the extra blocking they're going to have, the improved offense overall is going to give Nick Chubb more opportunities to score touchdowns. I mean, the big playability is going to be there, the improved offensive line. He is a safer pick for me right now here at the number 2 spot, at my number 2 pick. Now we move into the third. Let's go ahead and go to the draft board and see what's happened. So as you can see, McCaffrey off first, Barkley and Elliott, about as 1, 2, 3 as you can possibly get. This is where you kind of see Michael Thomas coming off, and then you got Kamara, Cook, Sanders, which is way high for Miles Sanders at the 7th pick. However, I love Miles Sanders. I don't love him 7th overall love, but I do think that he has the opportunity for a huge breakout year. Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, here's our Tyreek Hill and Nick Chubb. And then after that, a big run, right? You got to wait for a while. It's hard to see some of these names come off the board, but you're okay still. So you got Mixon, Julio, Hopkins, Jacobs, Jones, Godwin, Drake, Eckler, and Kelsey. Then you have Galladay, Carson, Kittle, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes back-to-back in the 3rd round. Unfortunately, that's probably what's going to happen a lot regardless of your league size. 3rd round is about where these guys are going to go, and I just can't pay that hefty price tag. I would rather find this year's Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, because what made those guys league winners is when they were drafted, last year or 2 years ago, they were picked up in like the 8th, 9th, 10th round. They won you your league because they were huge value. We have to find this year's value. There's going to be one out there. It happens every year. A little bit of a run on wide receivers, Evans, Moore, Kupp, and Cooper. So now, what do we have? Well, we have Nick Chubb, we have Tyreek Hill, and I really want to go running back, right? I really do. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still too overpriced for me. Plus, I already have Tyreek Hill. Not to say that I don't want multiple weapons from the same team. I just don't know if I want to risk it with a rookie running back who I still think that Damian Williams has a role to start the year in this offense. Yes, I do think that probably by week 6, 7, 8 or so, this backfield is Clyde Edwards-Helaire's, and he's going to have a solid second half of the year. I don't want to be playing catch-up at that point, though. Leonard Fournette, a lot of people jumping off the bandwagon of Fournette. They think with the addition of Chris Thompson, Jay Gruden now as an offensive coordinator, that Fournette could lose some of that upside. I totally get that. Plus, they don't really like each other, right? Fournette and the Jaguars. Todd Gurley, a lot of people not a big fan of Todd Gurley this year. But remember, the guy can put up some huge numbers and doesn't need 300 carries to do it. Yes, there's knee concerns, but the overall risk in the 3rd round, the last pick of the 3rd round, technically, if you wanted to get cute with it, I could wait and take him at the first pick of the 4th if it makes you feel any better. But Todd Gurley, at this point in the draft, is worth the risk, in my opinion. He was somewhat, held back by his team last year, right? He wasn't really given the full reins to start the year. They unleashed him second half of the year, tried to play catch-up in the division, didn't work. It was too late, but Todd Gurley looked fine, and his offseason workouts look good. I'm taking the risk here, and I'm going with Todd Gurley, the last pick of the 3rd round. But really, he could have been the first pick of the 4th. It doesn't really matter. So now we're looking about what do we have left. I'm waiting on tight end. I'm waiting on quarterback. There is a ton of value down here at tight end once you get to like the 11th spot with Gronk. Not that I don't like these guys up here, but there is a ton of breakout potential right here, and you can get him in the double-digit rounds. Quarterback, not really going to look at till round 7, 8-ish, depending on who's available. If I can still get one of the top guys, then I'll get one of them at that point, but not right here in the 4th. So we're looking running back and wide receiver. We still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Fournette. Melvin Gordon, he's going to be heavily involved in the offense, I believe, but now they've added Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. They already had Cortland Sutton. They had Phillip Lindsay. a defense that's pretty solid, right? In Denver, they're not really talked about a whole lot. So Melvin Gordon isn't bad. Jonathan Taylor, he'll be splitting time with Marlon Mack at least to start the year. Le'Veon Bell plays for Adam Gase, so I'm really not that interested in anybody that Adam Gase coaches. David Johnson, we've talked about his risk, but in Houston, they turned Carlos Hyde into a 1,000-yard rusher. If David Johnson is anything near healthy, he could be an amazing running back 3 for your team, a flex play. Same goes for James Conner. The guy's come out here lately and his back is the size of like a building in downtown wherever you live. He looks great, but what is the health of Ben Roethlisberger? If Roethlisberger goes out and they don't have a passing game, defense is just going to focus right there on James Conner. There's a lot of questions surrounding a lot of these guys, but that's kind of what you're going to run into if you do take one of these wide receivers early, like we took a Tyreek Hill. So you got Mark Ingram, safe play. Love Mark Ingram this year. Not too much of a PPR threat, but is going to be involved heavily in that offense again. For wide receivers, got Allen Robinson. Who's his quarterback going to be? Is it Trubisky? Is it Foles? Who's going to suck less in Chicago and win that job? Juju. Talked about him with James Conner. I love Juju a lot. I would love to take Juju right here. I just think it's too early here in the offseason, and even though it's a mock draft, I want to see Big Ben on the field, going through actual reps. It was nice to see a few social media clips of him going out there and throw the ball and He's Back campaign. Not that I'm a Steelers fan, but I love some Juju, and he would be an amazing value right here in the 4th round, and I would jump all over it. The same thing, Odell Beckham. He could be my number 2 wide receiver in the 4th round. I'm not going to have a pick for a while. He looks healthy. He's recovering from his offseason surgery. He's surrounded by a great offense, a better offensive line to give Baker more time. Odell Beckham, Juju, even Adam Thielen. I don't dislike any of these guys. Now, I'm only going to get one, right? Because then I'm going to have to wait for a while. So do I go with wide receiver here, or do I go with running back, solidify myself with somebody who has a little bit more risk, but he's my first flex play? We talk a lot about wanting touches, right? If I can get a running back right here that I think is going to get us close to 20 touches a week, that gives us 3 running backs on a weekly basis that are going to get close to 20 touches a week, which gives us 60 touches in the first 4 rounds, and we haven't even talked about Tyreek Hill yet. I like the touches. David Johnson has that opportunity. James Conner has that opportunity. Leonard Fournette has that opportunity, right? We're making some speculations there. Personally, I'm not buying too much in to the hate of Leonard Fournette from a lot of people, especially as my running back 3. He doesn't want to stay in Jacksonville. It doesn't seem like they want him to stay in Jacksonville. So it would not surprise me to have them run him into the ground and then let him walk after the year. Would not be surprising whatsoever. And as my number 3, I don't hate it. So I'm going to draft Leonard Fournette as my running back 3, which is great value right now in this draft. I'll head back over to the draft board here since a bunch of names coming off. We'll see what happened. So here's where we went Fournette. Then we got Allen Robinson, Mark Andrews, CEH, Thielen, Beckham, Gordon, Juju, Singletary, Ridley, Bell, Brown, Woods, Ingram, Sutton, Ertz, Taylor, David Johnson, and James Conner. Heck, we almost had David Johnson or James Conner come back to be our number 4. I would not have, been unhappy with that whatsoever. So now, what do we have available? David Montgomery, bounce back opportunity. No one to really challenge for touches. This is another guy who could go out and see close to 20 touches. The same thing for Raheem Mostert. Maybe not 20 a game, but 15 for sure in that offense that's, great on the ground. We know that about San Francisco. They've added Brandon Ayuk, which is only going to keep defenses more honest in the secondary, keeping them outside of the box. Love both of those guys. Keenan Allen, just did a video on Keenan Allen. I still think he's being overlooked a lot this year. He may not be the same Keenan Allen. It really depends who the quarterback is there. Devontae Parker, I think, Fantasy Bigfoot had a great end of 2019, and you're kind of paying a price to get him this year. I mean, we're getting him in the 5th, maybe the 6th, depending on which one we do, so it's not bad value. You got Tyler Lockett, who pissed a lot of people off last year because of his inconsistencies there in the middle of the season. T.Y. Hilton. I love why does nobody like T.Y. Hilton? I mean, T.Y. Hilton is basically Keenan Allen this year with Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis, except now Indianapolis has a much better line than what Phillip Rivers is used to, and he's going to have time to get the ball to T.Y. They drafted Michael Pittman. Cool. They drafted Jonathan Taylor. Cool. Now they're just going to have a great running game to even open up the passing game more. And are we really concerned that Michael Pittman's going to go out there and take every target from T.Y. Hilton? I really don't think so. I don't hate T.Y. Hilton whatsoever this year. So do we go with 2 wide receivers and lock up an Allen and a Hilton? Or do we just, take 1 running back, 1 wide receiver? Well, there's a few different ways you can do it. I mean, being that it is a PPR league, is David Montgomery going to kill you there and really help you in PPR and put you over the top? No, not really. Raheem Mostert maybe a little bit more. DeAndre Swift still dealing with Kerryon Johnson in the beginning of the season. Kareem Hunt. Do I want to draft Kareem Hunt and have to start both Hunt and Chubb every week? No, not really, because if they have a bad game, it's really going to cripple your team. So I'm looking at wide receiver here, at least for this first pick. And honestly, T.Y. Hilton has struggled with some injuries, but he's going to be coming into the year fully healthy. I like T.Y. Hilton a lot. I think a lot of people are sleeping on T.Y. Hilton as my number 2 wide receiver. Now, a lot of people are going to say, hey, man, what about, DJ Chark and DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, some young guys with some huge upside. I like DJ Chark with Minshew. I do. They added Chenault, which I don't really love. They still have D.D. Westbrook. So, there's competition there for targets. DK Metcalf, I think he has a big chance of ranking higher than Tyler Lockett by the end of the season. Terry McLaurin, I expect, Dwayne Haskins to take a step forward, which means that Terry McLaurin will take a step forward also. A lot of great options right here at the wide receiver position. Keenan Allen's still the safest play, right? So if you want to play safe here, I would go Keenan Allen. But personally, I want to shoot for a little bit more upside. I want to try to take the ceiling off this. I haven't taken a whole lot of risks as of yet. I love the potential of DK Metcalf this year. I'm taking DK Metcalf. He's my wide receiver 3 right now and my second flex. I don't hate it. He's a little bit more big play dependent, but he's proven even in his rookie year he can make those big plays. So not overly concerned. So here we are, 7th round. This is where I'll start looking quarterback if there's one available that I like. Russell Wilson is sitting there, and I just picked up DK Metcalf. That could be a solid stack on a weekly basis, some big play upside. Russell Wilson doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions. He's a safe play. I still like some of these other names down here, but Russell Wilson is pretty safe. And same thing we talked about earlier, right? It could be the last pick of the 7th or the first pick of the 8th. I could say, I waited till the 8th round to get my quarterback if it makes people happier. But either way, I think Russell Wilson, especially since I just took DK Metcalf, is the better option here for me. So I'll go ahead and take Russell Wilson. This will be the point in the draft where a lot of people are going to say, hey man, are you going to start looking at bye weeks? Nope. I really don't care about bye weeks. A lot can happen between now and week 10, week 11, whatever it is. I don't care if I have to lose one game to win the other 13 or 14. I'm taking the best players I can to build an overall team. So it doesn't worry me too much. Who do we have available now here? Now that we've taken our quarterback, we've already talked about waiting on tight end. Obviously not going kicker or defense yet, but we're going to try something different with those 2 positions, so hang tight. So now we go back to wide receiver and running back. We got Edelman. What is he without Brady? Marquise Brown, huge upside. Kind of already took a risk with DK Metcalf. Don't know if we want to do that again. Will Fuller. Will Fuller has the potential to be huge this year. He also has the potential to be hurt by week 2. Marvin Jones, solid vet. I don't know if I want to go this early with a Marvin Jones. Brandon Cooks. He's 1 concussion away from missing maybe the rest of the season, but you can say that about a lot of these players still available. Christian Kirk, he's going to be fighting for targets with DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, John Brown. Now they got Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. Don't forget about the Beasles. Running back Kareem Hunt. If he lasts one more go around, I'm going to take him because I can pair him with Chubb and have him on the bench. I just don't want to be reliant on starting him. I guess you could look at it this way though. I can always draft Hunt right here and wait. I can put Hunt down on the bench, not start him, and then just fill in with some of these wide receivers and running backs that we have coming up on a weekly basis if I want to. Plus, then I lock up that backfield, which is going to be one of the best backfields to own in 2020. So, you know what? I talked myself into it. I'm going to draft Kareem Hunt, but I'm going to move him down to my bench. Just so I don't think about him having to start every week. Having to. If it's a great matchup, sure, you can start them both. But you can just take this little arrow right here, if I can get it, and move him to my bench. So now, James White, Keyshawn Vaughn. Like Keyshawn Vaughn, Phillip Lindsay, sharing with Gordon. Breida, how much do we see of Breida compared to Howard? Howard may get the bulk of the volume in the goal line carries, leaving Breida kind of big play dependent. Kerryon Johnson, it's not going to be his job all year. I don't want to draft somebody who's about to lose their job by week 6 or so. Ronald Jones, not a chance. Marlon Mack, nope. Tariq Cohen, Tevin Coleman. I mean, I love Latavius Murray as a potential steal this year because we've seen this offense supply 2 top 10 running backs before, and they really can't continue to have Alvin Kamara dealing with injuries all year long. I could see a little bit more work going the way of Latavius Murray. So more than likely, I may reach for Latavius Murray just a little bit just in case. Wide receivers, we've talked about Kirk. Mike Williams, I mean, Tyrod isn't really known for throwing the ball down the field consistently, and as of right now, he's their starting quarterback. Sterling Shepard struggled with injuries in the past, plus has Tate and Slayton to worry about. Crowder, I think he'd be a decent PPR option this year. I'm just not real high on the Jets' offense as a whole. Emmanuel Sanders, I think he sees some solid targets in New Orleans. Anthony Miller, I love Deontay Johnson. Love it. And is it early to reach? Yeah, it is. It's the 9th, 10th round, depending on which pick I take on him. And I already talked about how I want Latavius Murray. I don't think either one of these guys make it back, the 20 picks or so to come back to me. So I got to make a decision. And a lot of times in your draft, you're going to have to make the same decisions. This is where your research and preparation really pairs up because this is going to piss fantasy pros off. If I go down here right now and I take Latavius Murray and I take Deontay Johnson, fantasy pros is going to think that I have lost it, that I don't know what I'm doing, and that they're going to give me a bad grade for it. However, doing the research and planning ahead of time, that score at the end means crap to me. What really means anything to me is winning or losing fantasy games. These are the guys who I believe that are available right now that give me the best chance to win. You can have an argument there for James White, but are we really expecting 10 to 12 targets a game, kind of like we saw with Tom Brady? Maybe not. So there's risk involved. I'm going with the guys that I like, with the guys that I want, the guys that I believe in. So give me Deontay Johnson right here. And then I'm just going to back it up and go Latavius Murray. On the bench right now, I have arguably the 2 best handcuffs in all of fantasy football. However, they have weekly value. Neither one of these guys are going to get you zeros every week. They're going to be involved on a weekly basis, and I can throw them into my flex spot at any time that I want to. Plus, if Chubb or Kamara go down, they're RB1s. So I love grabbing Hunt and Murray if I can this year. Yes, sometimes you're going to have to reach a little bit, but in my opinion, this year, it's worth it. So now here we are, 11th round, going back-to-back 11th and 12th. Tyler Higbee still sitting there. Remember, it's a 10-team league. He will go earlier in 12-teamers. I think he's still somewhat of a risk. I don't want to buy last year's production, but at this point in the draft, it's almost worth it, right? Because this guy was Travis Kelce-esque at the end of 2019, and now that there's no Brandon Cooks, how much do they rely on Higbee? How involved is Gerald Everett? It's a question. So if you take him, which I'm going to right here, I'm going to take Tyler Higbee, you need to back him up with somebody else. Now, there's options here, right? It's a deeper league, so you're going to possibly draft 3 tight ends. And I say that because somebody else who I am actively going after this year, like a lot, is Rob Gronkowski. Why? He's going in the double-digit rounds. He's not going very early, so there's very minimal risk. However, what if Gronk is a 700-yard, 10-touchdown tight end? That's top 10, right? And you're getting him here at the end, and it's not even crazy numbers to go out there and think that he gets there. What if he gets 50 catches for 650 yards, 700 yards, and 10 touchdowns? You're going to be happy with that, and you're taking him in the double-digit rounds, and just in case Higbee doesn't pan out, you got Gronk. And with as deep as this roster is, you're still going to have the opportunity to get like a Jack Doyle, an Eric Ebron, a Jonnu Smith, somebody even later on at the bottom of your bench as another insurance policy. So I'm going right here, back to back with Gronk, and crossing my fingers, we get a little bit of old school Gronk coming back. So now we wait. Right now the roster, we got Wilson, Chubb, Gurley, Hill, Hilton, Higbee, Fournette, Metcalf, Deontay Johnson with Hunt, Murray, and Gronk on the bench. Going back over here, we got Duke Johnson. A lot of people want to laugh about it, but if David Johnson is not 100% healthy at some point this year, watch out. Duke Johnson's going to be huge. Zach Moss, no thanks, dude blows. Tony Pollard, Boston Scott, Naheem Hines, Preston Williams. How healthy is he going to be coming back off the ACL? And now how more involved is Devontae Parker? Does that take away some of the efficiency of Preston Williams? Brashad Perryman. I mean, really? A one-year deal there with Adam Gase, trying to get on the same page with Darnold. Not overly excited. Westbrook, not really. No, I still think that DJ Chark's the guy to own there in Jacksonville. Michael Pittman, we already have Hilton, so we really don't want both. Renfro, loved him before the draft. He may get buried on the depth chart now, may be very target dependent, and he may not see him consistently. Larry Fitzgerald, I still think that he's going to be now the number 2 in this offense and has the opportunity to rack up receptions. Maybe not huge yardage and touchdown numbers, but I could see him kind of being the safety valve this year. I don't dislike taking Larry late. What else do we have down here? We have Matt Ryan is still available, which is kind of crazy. It's the 13th round, and so is Tom Brady. Now, we have Russell Wilson, and I'm not huge on just drafting another quarterback early, especially in a league like this where there's going to be options. If you want to, you can. Personally, being that you're still going to have this draft over and you're going to have the likes of probably Tannehill, Cousins, Jimmy G, Rivers, Minshew, Locke, they're all probably going to be sitting on waivers. So I probably wouldn't waste another spot on a quarterback. I would just grab one and stream him if I had to, if something happened to Russell Wilson. So now we're going to go back to our skill positions. And which one do we like the most? Naheem Hines, he has a chance to be something in that offense. Larry Fitzgerald, Paris Campbell I like. We already have Hilton. We talked about that. Noah Fant is still sitting there available. Is Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, Hayden Hurst, TJ Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith, a name we love, one of these guys? Do we want to add them to our benches more tight end depth? This is where you can really make a couple decisions. Do you want to go for that super high upside, the boom or bust, or do you just want to find some safety? The correct answer, both. So the safest pick here, out of everybody that's available, the safest pick is probably going to be Larry Fitzgerald. He's not sexy, he's not what he used to be, but he's a safe bench stash where if I need to start him on any given week, he gives me that opportunity to go out there and score 10 fantasy points. No, he's not going to be a guy to go out there and score 30 a week, but in a spot start, he's somebody that's solid on my bench that I can count on. Talked about Duke Johnson. If anything were to happen to David Johnson, he immediately becomes somebody that has a huge role. Same thing with Boston Scott. If anything happens to Miles Sanders. Adrian Peterson, how much work does he get if Darius Geis just remains to not stay healthy? There's a lot of questions surrounding that also. Personally, there's nobody that's at the top of any of these lists that I'm like, this is an absolute must-have. I got to do it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go with the best player available in my opinion right now. And because I took a chance at tight end, I'm going to take another one. It's a deep bench. It's a deep league. I want to make sure that at some point I have solid options. Noah Fant was my number 1 tight end ahead of TJ Hawkinson coming out of last year's draft. I think his upside is huge. Gesicki, I want to say the breakout is coming, but he also has more people taking away targets this year than maybe he did last year. Hayden Hurst, he's taking over for Austin Hooper, who had a great year last year. Does all that volume go Hurst's way? Well, I already have Todd Gurley. Also, how many Falcons do I want to rely on? Hurst isn't a weekly must start. TJ Hawkinson, this guy, I mean, we talked about him here with Fant. I think the ability is there, absolutely. I think the upside is possibly there. Dallas Goedert, he was a top 10 tight end last year and barely saw enough, didn't even see tight end 1 work. He's splitting out there with Zach Ertz, but still was able to produce. He's a safe play. But my wild card, a guy that finished top 10 in multiple tight end, categories and only had 40 targets. He's going to be their tight end 1 this year, and it's a little early, but I'm not going to miss out on it. I'm taking Jonnu Smith, and people may think that's crazy, and that's fine. But when you know something or you feel something about a player, just do it. You're deep on your bench anyway. You're not reliant on this guy on a weekly basis. And if he pans out and he becomes a top 5, 6 tight end, who cares which round you got him in? You got the guy you wanted, and that's what it's all about. Anthony McFarland, a name that's standing out here. He could definitely back up James Conner. Anthony McFarland is kind of like a version of Dalvin Cook. Not quite that way, but the skill set is similar, and he could definitely put up some big numbers in a Pittsburgh offense. Over here, we got Hunter Renfrow, like I said, could be buried. Paris Campbell, James Washington, Corey Davis, no thanks. Allen Lazard is a name that's very intriguing to me, and this is about the time where I would start to look at him. Do I really want to count on Devin Funchess being the next best target in Green Bay? Not really. They lost Jimmy Graham. They have Devontae Adams, and then they have what? Allen Lazard is about as close as you can get to the number 2 wide receiver in Green Bay right now that has chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people are forgetting about him. A lot of people don't think that he has any opportunity. But at this point on my bench, where he's buried on the bench, what do you have to lose other than somebody who could see some crazy targets if Devontae Adams were to go out again with an injury? So I'm taking a chance here. I'm going with Allen Lazard. Next up, try to get one more running back before it gets too late. There's some names at the wide receiver position that I like late that I always take here at the end. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to find that diamond, that guy that could turn into something huge. We kind of got 2 of them here at the end, and they're at the end of every draft. Chase Edmonds, he's already proven that he can put up huge numbers in that offense if anything were to happen to the starting running back this year being Kenyon Drake. Also, mentioned Anthony McFarland. Nyheim Hines isn't a 3-down back, but both of these guys could be. A lot of people want to go to A.J. Dillon, but you still got Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, 2 there to deal with. Personally, I'm taking a chance on Edmonds or on McFarland. It's either or. Either are a crapshoot. I'm going to go ahead and go, not with Nyheim Hines, with Chase Edmonds here, because I still think he's going to have weekly value. I think McFarland's going to be a little bit more dependent on an injury to Connor. However, if Connor goes down, which he's known to do, he could be huge. Now, this is where we're going to try something totally different. I never do this, ever, but we're going to try it. Right now is really the last round, 17th round, where you can pick a position player before you start going defenses and kickers, right? I'm going to take him a round early, just so I get a better option of who I want. I mean, at least for the defense, you got the Bears, the Saints, the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Rams, Eagles. I would have loved to get one of the top 5 defenses up here, but being that they're gone already, that's fine. I think the Bears defense has an opportunity to be a lot more improved this year over last year. The Saints, I like their defense. What I don't like is the division they play in, and they're going to have to constantly worry about Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, and those offenses. That could hurt you on a few weeks. The Vikings, they're ranked way too high. Not going to happen. The Chiefs, not a bad overall defense fantasy-wise. They played a lot better towards the end of the year last year. What kind of swagger do they come out with this year? Because once they got that last year, they were very much improved. I don't dislike them whatsoever. And the Rams, you got the likes of Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey on the outside. Michael Brockers came back after that failed trade. There's some pieces there in Los Angeles also. Personally, none of these teams just stand out and be like, oh, this is the one you got to go with. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. I think they have the better opportunity to have better matchups throughout the year in a division that may be a little bit weaker than some of these other teams. Now, why not? Let's just try it different, because I want to just go grab a Cole Beasley or somebody last anyway, but nobody's going to take him. So let's go ahead and just take the number 1 kicker while we're at it. So now we got our better defense, the best kicker. I guess arguably the best. I'm not huge on kickers. A lot of leagues probably should get rid of kickers, but that's all right. Justin Tucker, he can boot it from deep. And now our last pick of the draft, just to make sure nobody fell, you got Bernard, Richard, Josh Kelly, Benny Snell, none of these guys who I'm overly actively going after. As you can see, we still have a lot of quarterbacks available, so no need in going there. If anything happens to Wilson, just go stream one of these guys. Wide receiver, we have Renfro, Campbell still sitting there, Washington, Davis, Tyrell Williams, Beasley. I love Paris Campbell. I really don't care because I already have T.Y. Hilton or Cole Beasley. Being that I don't have anybody from Buffalo that I think is going to be a much improved offense this year, I'll take a stab on Cole Beasley, even though I don't hate Paris Campbell whatsoever. So here's our score. As you can tell, they were pissed off when I took some of the players I took, especially Kareem Hunt and Latavius Murray. But like I said, don't get caught up in the score. Look at the overall roster, and is it a roster that you wouldn't mind playing with? We got Russell Wilson, Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley, Tyreek Hill, T.Y. Hilton, Tyler Higbee, Fournette, Metcalf, Deontay Johnson with the Bears and Tucker. And then on the bench, Kareem Hunt, Latavius Murray, Rob Gronkowski, Larry Fitzgerald, Jonnu Smith, Allen Lazard, Chase Edmonds, and Cole Beasley. Overall, given the team, the setup, all the flexes, This has a mixture of, veteran safety. It has a mixture of youth upside, and there's options on the bench that could absolutely explode and take this roster to the next level. Overall, I'm happy with this team. I would rock this team on a weekly basis in my real fantasy football leagues. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think of this draft, and what do you think of the strategy? What do you like about the 3 flex plays? Is that something you've ever done before? That's what this is all about, is just trying to get your brain thinking, right? Not every draft is going to be the same. You can have it all laid out on paper, and by the time you get to the draft, by the time you hit the 3rd round, 2nd round sometimes, your plans are going to be out the window anyway. The whole purpose of these mock drafts is to give you that opportunity just to think differently. What would I do in this situation? What would I do over here? Well, if this doesn't happen, what do I want to do? That is the purpose of all these mock drafts. So hopefully you're able to find some value in it. We love doing mock drafts. We like talking our way through mock drafts. So hopefully you enjoyed it also. Leave a comment down below in the comment section. Let me know what you think, and let me know what kind of rosters you may end up with in a similar style draft. Trying to be as interactive as possible. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. If you're interested in our fantasy football draft guide, it's for sale on our website, thefantasyheadliners.com. Almost 600 virtual pages of all things fantasy football. You don't want to miss out on that. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you later.